Junior's rookie year was impressive, but what makes it exciting is how much better he can still get.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Rays podcast. Locked On Rays is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. And we are Kevin and Ulises.
And we are lifelong Rays fans who have been podcasting about the Tampa Bay Rays since 2019.
Later on today's show, why Brandon Lowe never had the chance to be the Rays' greatest power hitter. In a few minutes, the Rays must, and I mean must, have an answer at catcher to begin this season. But to start, there's more improvements for Junior Caminero in 2026 and beyond.
And we're going to talk about all of that thanks to FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Kevin, Junior Caminero has so much room to grow after his coming out season in 2025. We basically know the numbers by heart. Slashed 264, 311, a 535 slug. That is an 846 OPS, a 131 OPS plus, 45 home runs, 154 games played. We saw the improvement at third base throughout the season. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was being defensively replaced in April and May. And then at the end of the year, he was making highlight reel catches in place at third base. So you saw the growth in 2025. But when you look at a contemporary, a countryman like Vladito up in Toronto, and you see the numbers that Guerrero has done either at 21, 22 years old, like juniors, and then what he has ended up doing since, you have to get excited about the possibility that Junior could possibly reach those heights. And if he ever does, that would be great news for the Rays.
Yeah, and in some way, it would be great news for the Rays. In another way, it might mean that his talent and ability and performance becomes too expensive for the Rays, because we know the money that Vladito got from the Blue Jays relatively recently. But I think Vladito is a good benchmark for Junior to shoot for as far as the production year in and year out and the consistency year in and year out. I mean, we know about that insane 2021 season he had. I mean, that's probably Vladito's career year from then until the time he retires. But beyond that, there's a reason why he's basically an all-star each and every year. He is consistently putting up very impressive numbers, and he's available. He's given you 150 to 155 games, and we've seen improvements in his game where you have the contact, you have the plate discipline. He's not striking out as much. While he might be sacrificing a little bit of power, he's still getting extra base hits in the form of doubles. So, Junior, I feel like some of the tools that Vladito has, that is something that Junior can aspire to. I truly believe that Junior has as much, if not more, raw power than Vlad Guerrero Jr. But Vlad, undoubtedly has the edge in terms of the OPS and getting on base in the batting average, just the consistency overall, which you hope in time Junior will be able to do that. I mean, Vladito is now 26 years old, so he has a long track record of building up to that point, and you just hope that Junior can get to that point as well in some shape or form.
And when you look at Vladito's numbers, his 162 game average, I think every fan would sign up for that right now. If Junior Caminero ends up having this line as an average for 162, I'll read you guys Vladito's line. 30 home runs, 98 RBI, 288 average, 861 OPS, a 136 OPS plus. Everybody would sign up for that. And I'll tell you why. that 136 OPS plus, that is the average for Vladito, that's higher than what we just saw from 21, 22-year-old Junior. He put it on 131, and we're happy.
Yes.
The average from 2021 to 2025 for Vladito has been even higher than that. I think you're right. The power component for Junior does seem like that's the edge, but we have to hope that the growth will be in the plate discipline.
Yes.
If you look at the on base that Junior had this year, 311, that was Vladito's batting average in 2021 when he was 22 years old. So
Yeah.
the question is, do you think that at 22 years old, this coming season, Junior can even sniff those numbers? I think the answer is no, but I don't
No.
think that's negative. I think that's just how good Vladito was.
Yeah, especially that season. Maybe we can split the difference between Junior season in 2025 and Vladito's season in 2021 as far as the batting average, the on base, the slugging, the OPS, and all those numbers. I will say something that worked out in Vladito's favor is he moved from third base to first base. I believe that was in 2020 or around that period time frame. So, there's a reason they call first base the cold corner and third base the hot corner. So there's a lot more, I feel, pressure and responsibility defensively with those two positions. So, and not saying that, hey, Junior has to move from third to first. I mean, maybe there is a period where the Rays, see that element, but I think if you can keep him at third, that just makes him that much more valuable. So I feel like it's not necessarily apples and oranges, but we also have to give Junior a little bit of a pass because he is playing a different position than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is presently playing. But I think the overall numbers is something that you can aspire to. And you would just hope that as a Rays fan and selfishly that, the power numbers can be a little bit more boastful than what Guerrero has put forth since that 2021 season. I mean, I know he's hovered around, 30 home runs, but I think he had, like a 24, a 28 or something like that. I feel like there's more in the tank for Junior than that in the years to come.
Yeah, and I think honestly, you're right on that, but I would be happy with sacrificing some power.
Yes.
If it's going to give you a little bit more contact, if it's going to be a little bit more on base friendly. Obviously he's young and there's so much room to grow. Which is why we wanted to put this comparison there, because I think we have a Rays bias against AL East foes. And with Vladito, although we both agree that Vladito should not be getting $500 million, I think when you look at the numbers that Vladito has had, it's tough to say he is not at least a $300 million guy. He is a really, really solid player. And if Junior touches the 162 game average that Vladito has done, again, 288 average, 30 home runs, almost 100 RBI, 136 OPS plus, I think every Rays fan right now would sign up for that. And if you're a Rays fan that is listening to this and you're hitting that like button and you're hitting that subscribe button, if you haven't, you're going to write down a comment probably right now saying, I disagree. I think Junior's going to be way better than Vladito. State it there. Or if you would be happy if Junior were to match those 162 game average stats, put it down in the comments.
Yeah, and I'll just say this about Junior. I mean, I know sometimes we're critical of the lack of walks, the strikeouts, the on-base percentage, and so forth, but can we really blame him as a 21, 22-year-old when you have the potential to hit 45 home runs? I'd probably be, and 28 doubles. Let's not forget about the doubles. Yeah. You might at times not have a lot of help around you, and you're kind of the guy that everybody's counting on. Yeah, you might swing at a pitch with the hopes of making contact with it. You might be a little bit more aggressive than you probably should be because you have this unique skill set.
Exactly. And do you think that his approach will change going from a minor league stadium to the Trop? Are we going to see maybe he was going a little bit bigger because of the stadium
Possibly.
dimensions, and maybe now at the Trop he's going to maybe work on, okay, well, maybe I don't have to swing so much all the time like that because it's not going to go out.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is going to have to be properly communicated to him through Chad Mottola and Ozzie Timmons. It's on those guys and
Yes.
Kevin Cash and the front office folks to explain that, the Trop is different than Steinbrenner Field. This is how you can alter your approach to some extent while still having the overall numbers. You might not have 45 home runs, but your WAR, your MVP votes, they might increase by a margin here or two.
Exactly. So from third base to behind the dish, let's talk about that never ending issue with the Rays having question marks. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. And you know what? You can always use them as green Skittles on FanDuel. That's always a lot of fun. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. You heard that right. $300 in bonus bets to new customers when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com right now to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you so much for listening to Locked On Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Kevin can't start the 2026 season without addressing the catching position. This is a never-ending issue with the Rays. We've had little spurts here and there of, it's fixed with Wilson Ramos, with a Mike Zunino all-star season, but really overall the Rays have had a crappy time behind the dish. So when you look at the free agents that are out there, I think a guy that has at least some name recognition amongst baseball fans and that can actually bring some production offensively while not being a detractor defensively, that would be Victor Caratini. I understand that he's not a world beater, but when you look at his 2026 projections, stay with me here, folks. A 254 average, 322 on base, 399 slug, a 102 WRC plus. We would all sign up for that. Those are his 2026 projections as a 30-plus-year-old guy. I think he's going to be 33 or 34 in 2026. So, yeah, he might not be flashy, but I think it's a doable contract that you could do, maybe like a Danny Jansen type of 1 year of $9 million, $10 million, plus another option around the same area, and you could possibly get him. And if you're Victor, you have the chance of being with a team that would give you playing time and has really good pitching metrics and a pitching staff that would be fun for you to be behind the plate for.
Yeah, I know that we'd maybe joked about Caratini several weeks or a couple months ago, but that honestly is looking like the most ideal option at this juncture, because if we're entering the 2026 season with just Fortes and Feduccia, I don't know how we can stomach that, how we can put up with that. So the Rays have to find some avenue to patchwork the catching position. Again, Caratini, you signed him. He's not the long-term answer. He's a short-term answer for a year and a half or two, but that's the period that we're at with the Rays. That's what they did last year with Danny Jansen. And, if you really struggle mightily halfway through the season and the team is, 10 games under 500, then okay, you ship him off to somebody else and then lick your wounds for next season. But you mentioned the offensive numbers, and those are very admirable, really, for multiple positions, but especially the catching position. What I really like about Caratini, well, he's a switch hitter, first of all, but the consistency the last couple years from 2023, 2024, 2025, you could bank on him giving you a 260 batting average, 8 to 12 home runs in an OPS above 700. And tie that in with the fact that, we talked about Vladito in the previous segment, but Caratini does not chase. He does not strike out. He does not swing and miss. And that is something we need from the catching position that we've been crying and aching for several years. And if I was the Rays, I would start targeting Caratini early, because the big catching free agent out there is JT Realmuto. And I assume that multiple teams will be in on him. I mean, I don't know if the Phillies plan to bring him back, but
Right.
I would assume there's going to be lots of interest because he's the shiny star. He's the big name. So if you can undercut all that and say, hey, clearly the Rays aren't going to be looking at Realmuto because he's out of the price range. But if you can target and sign and approach Caratini early and express that interest of like, hey, we really want you to come here, that could make the difference. That way, him and his agents are satisfied. He has a place to call home. He has a couple millions locked up, and then you're done with it. And, like you said, an opportunity to have a primary role, because you sign Caratini, he's immediately the 1A guy at catcher. And then you find some playing time for Feduccia and Fortes based on that. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I'm all for, trying to make a play for Caratini.
And I know that, usually with free agents, you always go, okay, well, the big fish has to go before the other complementary parts. So if you're looking at it, you can be like, okay, well, Victor Caratini is not going to sign until JT Realmuto does, so that he can set the market of what a catcher can get in 2026. I understand that. But there's nothing wrong with getting to Caratini, getting to his agent, and showing up just like they did last year with Danny Jansen, flying to his home and saying how much they would like to get him aboard. I think that would be great if the Rays targeted a Victor that way. And to your second point, I believe in competition, man. So if you have Feduccia, who I still believe Hunter Feduccia can be a guy. He showed up 4 years in AAA. He could mash. There was never any bad reports about his defensive work. Was it a good showing with the Rays in 2025? Absolutely not. Small sample size. I still believe in Hunter Feduccia. Nick Fortes, kind of same track. I still believe he can be something. I don't think a starter, but I think he can be a reliable backup catcher, or at least a platoon 50-50. When you bring Victor Caratini now, you're creating competition within those two guys immediately in spring training, and even beforehand on their work in the offseason. Plus, Kev, if you're looking at this saying like, well, you're going to have to like trade a guy, or you don't have to trade any of them, because Hunter Feduccia still has one minor league option, and Nick Fortes has 2 minor league options. So whoever you decide to be Victor's catching duo, they have an option. You can keep them in AAA, and if something happens, which injuries happen every bleeping year,
yes,
you've got a guy that you can trust that already knows the pitching staff because they played last year with the Rays.
Yeah, and with Caratini, I mean, for what it's worth, he did play college ball in Florida, so I'm sure he's familiar with the state to some extent. So maybe there is some familiarity there. But if you look at his splits, now he got a lot more action versus righties than lefties at the plate. But his OPS versus righties was 726. His OPS versus lefties was 740. So
Sign me up. Sign me up.
I think you really have to do your best to target a guy like this. I mean, look, there is very few perfect catchers. I mean, every guy is going to have flaws. So it's all about, are you willing to sacrifice some defense for some more offense? And he gets great markers as far as blocks. There are some issues with framing in pop time. And like most catchers, doesn't have speed, but it is what it is. But
ABS is coming next year.
Yeah, the framing is, we can basically eliminate that. So, I mean, if you can find a way to work with him on the pop time a little bit, great. And, selfishly or admirably. Maybe the Rays have such a good starting pitching staff that there's not that many runners on and there's not that many opportunities to steal backs. But I think that Caratini or someone like him, but I really don't know. You lose out again. Ray Muto is a non-factor. That's not happening. You miss out on Caratini. Who else is after him? I guess you could try to make a play on Danny Jansen again, or you got to go.
Those are your two guys in the free agent market right now that you could possibly target that are not going to break the bank. Danny Jansen would be a great reunion because we know that he knows the pitching staff. Yeah, right. The numbers behind the dish were not great defensively, but dude, you kind of know what you're going to get from Danny Jansen at the plate offensively. And Victor Caratini, we have said his numbers. We know the projections, what they are. It's just, I don't think you can tell Rays fans, yes, we're really going for it. We think we can be a playoff team, and you didn't address the catching situation. If you go into spring training or let's say opening day, because, you can always make a late trade in spring training. So let's say opening day, just to give them a little bit more time.
Right.
If you go into opening day, 2026, and your catching duo is Hunter Feduccia and Nick Fortes, I don't believe you think you are a playoff team.
And what does that tell to the pitching staff? I mean, again, we can talk about Caratini's defensive numbers as much as we want, but the fact is he's been in the league a long time, 9 seasons. He has experience. He's worked with major league pitching staffs for an extended period of time. I feel like that adds a little bit of punch and panache to, who Shane Baz is dealing with, who Drew Rasmussen is dealing with, who Ryan Pepio is dealing with. I mean, he is, he's not a name, but he is a name. There is some familiarization there with, hey, you got a guy that's been there, done that, where Feduccia has really no experience, and Fortes, has a little bit of experience, but Caratini is a true veteran when it's all said and done.
You trust those guys. I saw Raz talking to Hunter Feduccia multiple times during the broadcast. You saw guys talking to Fortes, and obviously they trust those guys behind the dish, but it just comes a little bit differently when the guy has had almost a decade in the majors, and he was Yu Darvish's personal catcher with the Padres. So there's a little bit more gravitas coming from him than Fortes and Feduccia. And that's not speaking badly of Feduccia and Fortes. It's just they haven't had the major league time to do that. Again, I believe Hunter Feduccia can still be a starter. I still believe that Nick Fortes can be a reliable catching duo, backup catcher. But I feel like if you want to actually say it, if you're Neander in the front office and you want to make people believe you that you are actually going for the playoffs in 2026, you have to address the catching situation.
Well, and I know we're going long here, but one last comment on that. In Neander's postmortem press conference, didn't he mention that we weren't that pleased with the catching production?
We saw some good things, but we're still out there looking, something like that.
Yes, exactly. To that effect, which means that if not Caratini, then who? Yeah. Find somebody that
we're not far away. If those are Neander's comments, we're not that far away from the truth.
Indeed. All right, moving on. Brandon Lowe could have been the Rays' all-time homer leader, but circumstances got in the way. Thank you for listening to the Locked On Rays podcast and making us your very first listen every day. We appreciate it. We are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Brandon Lowe never had the chance to be the Rays' greatest power hitter.
You look at the numbers that Brandon Lowe has put up, and you're just in awe. First of all, because of the stature, and first of all, second of all, the position he plays, second base. Yes. He's right now at 157. He's third on the list. 6 more pumps, ties him with Carlos Pena at 163. And then he has Longo only ahead of him. But Longo is at 261. 98 homers away after he ties him. So when you take a look at Brandon Lowe's career, you think, oh man, he had the chance to be the franchise leader in home runs, because you start looking at 2019. And you say, okay, that was a freak injury. He was an all-star. 82 games, he had 17 home runs. So if you're conservative, you can say, all right, he would have had 15 more home runs.
And by the way, that freak injury was fouling a ball off his shin, of all things.
Come on, dude.
Who would have thought that a foul ball off your shin would, basically take your second half of what otherwise was an amazing season.
Exactly. That's just so unfair. So let's say, okay, that was 15 home runs that could have been added to his tally. And then you have the COVID season in 2020. In 56 games, he had 14 home runs. So I don't want to hear it. That's 20 more that were there for the taking, 20 more bombs that he could have had. He did not. Okay. So you add that to the tally, 20 plus 15. Okay. And then you're thinking that's 192. He's still far away. All right. In 2026, he stays healthy. He puts up another season like he just did, 30 pumps. That gets him to 222. And then you start looking at, oh my God, he never had the chance. He never had a chance to become the Rays' greatest power hitter. That's how good Evan Longoria was.
Yes.
At 261. I mean, it's unreal because Brandon Lowe has insane raw power and has had the fortune to put up numbers that are really, really good that are going to get him to be second on the list of all time. But even so, even if you add the 15 in 2019, even if you add 20 in the 2020, even if you add 30 in the 2026 season, he's still kind of 40 home runs away from the lead. So he really, honestly, never had the chance to become the greatest power hitter in Rays history.
Yeah, it just underscores how good, and we cannot forget how good Evan Longoria is. But Brandon Lowe has an excellent, amazing chance to be the number 2 greatest power hitter in Rays franchise history. I mean, it would be really cool to see him get to at least 200 in a Rays uniform. I don't know. I mean, that really couldn't happen next season. He would have to stick around for 2027 and beyond, which I don't know. I mean, maybe to me, Brandon Lowe seems like a guy who would take somewhat of a pay cut to remain with the only organization that he's been with. He has a family. He's comfortable. He likes this place. Maybe he can, cement his own name in Tampa Bay Rays lore. And I guess it all depends on how good or how productive he is in 2026. And if he's able to avoid the injury bug and willing to come back with the Rays. But it really would be cool to see him stick around for a couple more years in a Rays uniform and maybe get closer to that 261 of Longo. I don't know if I mean, I think it's really a long shot to expect him to stick around long enough to hit 262 bombs in a Rays uniform, but let's remember, he is only 30 years old, or 2025 was his 30-year-old season. And, even if he doesn't play second base forever, will continue to harp on this. With his raw power, he is still valuable as a first baseman. He is still valuable as a full-time DH. He still can stick around for, several more years.
And so for people that do not have this in front of them, he's going to be making $11.5 million in 2026. In 2027, he will be a free agent. He did sign an 8-year, $45 million contract from 2019. So you put this all together, I agree with you that he does look like the guy who could potentially want to stick around for maybe a little bit less money than go elsewhere. Yeah. He's low key. He has a family. He has roots here. Like, dude, you've been playing with the Rays since 2018. Like,
yeah, let me just say, there's a point to that. If the Rays are offering, hey, we'll give you a 2-year, $30 million deal, and there's another team that swoops in and says, hey, we'll give you 4 years and $75 million deal. I mean, you'd be stupid not to take the 75 mil, wherever that is. Exactly.
And to that point, I come back with the team-friendly deal. Dude, that was a very ridiculous friendly deal at $45 million. Like, he was underpaid, and he's still underpaid. So if you're Brandon Lowe, yeah, you might have the personality to want to be low-key and not go into a big market and just not deal with it. And maybe you do sign for less money with Tampa. But the issue is, man, you already did that once. You're going to do that again. And like, this is his last chance to make money. So I think it's going to be very tough for the Rays to even woo him with all the personality traits that you want to add into this hypothetical world, because the 45 million was just it was highway robbery. So with 157 home runs, being 43 away from 200, unless he has a 43 home run season in 2026, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to touch 200 with the Rays.
And the other consideration too with all this is, I mean, you're a major leaguer, you're a professional athlete. Yes, making money and cashing in is great, but you also want to play for a winning organization. Not to say the Rays aren't a winning organization, but if they have a third losing season in 2026, at what point, and you're a free agent after the season, at what point, if you're Brandon Lowe, do you say, all right, I want to go somewhere where I have a chance to win a World Series?
Can I say something?
Where I have a chance to prove myself and prove everybody else wrong that says that I can't perform in the playoffs.
Or if you're Brandon Lowe, wouldn't you take like a fat paycheck from the Rockies? Yes, it would suck to win 60 games for the next 3 years. But like, if you're Brandon Lowe, you have that power, you want to get paid, maybe like the Rockies throw you something just to, that one freak free agent that they sign, and you're like, why are they signing
like Chris Bryant
for that type of money? Like, like maybe Brandon Lowe could be that next free agent. What the heck are they doing? And just have fun pumping 40 bombs there a year for 3 years. Yeah. Like maybe you get paid 3 years, 60 mil for Brandon Lowe, and you're like, yep, I'm gonna hit 160 home runs in Colorado and call it a career.
Yeah, I mean, that could work too. But just going back to it, Brandon Lowe never had the chance to be the Rays' greatest power hitter, but he is, as of this recording, as of today, one of the 2 or 3 greatest power hitters.
He'll be the second greatest power hitter that the Rays have ever had until Junior Caminero takes it.
Give Junior Caminero about 3 or 4 more years, and then Brandon Lowe will be surpassed. But I will say Brandon Lowe is making a case to be, a Rays Hall of Famer, and having some sort of marquee, well, not in the Trop necessarily, but the new stadium, have some sort of history element to what he did for so many years in a Rays uniform. So on that note, we hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you later.